With rich experience in teacher training, she champions innovative teaching and meaningful classroom engagement. So, ma'am, hello, and the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Aparna. Good evening, all dear teachers. Good to see you all today evening here for this session on decoding classroom interactions. My question was, what are your expectations from today's session? Nice. Any useful tips that can enhance our teaching methods? That's yeah, that will be today's objective. Very good. So, with that note, um, I'll present my presentation to see what is decoding classroom interaction. For that, I would like to present a context for you where it says the road trip conversation. Here I'll present a situation for all of you. The situation is you are traveling with your friends and you are on a road trip, and you are four or five of you in a car going on a road trip. When you begin with lot of enthusiasm, and as you go you get tired after a while, and everyone in the car is silent for a while, and you continue to go on your journey, but somebody in between just brings a spark, and with that spark people in your car start talking, and that will convert to a continuous conversation. Now, with this scenario, what do you think? I want you to think about this situation and let me know your thoughts on this situation. Okay. Now, let's all analyze this interaction. Whatever the situation I posed, let's analyze what is this interaction. How do you feel when everyone is quiet versus when the conversation picks up? Conversation is contagious. Shaju, nice. Yeah, that is very good. It is contagious. And how do you feel when, I mean, you can also talk. You can also put in the chat box. If you have anything, you can also talk. How do you feel when everyone is quiet versus the conversation picks up? I agree with you. Exactly. So it will be really boring, and you may not have, I mean, would like to even think about going on a next road trip, or you may want to even end your journey there, isn't it? Versus when the conversation picks up. Action of thoughts, excellent. Even as Lawrence is telling, I feel I need to contribute something very good. So it is motivating you to participate in the conversation. Excellent. Any more? That is really good. So if when the conversation picks up, you are motivated. There is no boredom, and you also want to participate. So the person who has created that spark has actually kindled your interest and also your participation. Agreed? With that, it's very important for somebody to kindle the idea or whatever. There should be some beginning somewhere. So here, all of with you, even I agree that if there is a conversation which is picking up, it will take out the boredom, and it is very interesting. And it is also interesting to get into a conversation since you are going with your friends. You will also share some common ideas, and you will also be probably of the same age, and you will have common interests with which there is a lot of exchange of words. Now, what type of conversation do you enjoy more on a road trip? What if only one person is speaking throughout the journey, or a participated discussion? You all said it is good if when somebody gives that spark. Okay, you say participate discussion is better. Very good. So you would appreciate a participated discussion. That means if everyone is involved in the conversation, it will be a lively environment. Yeah, even I agree with that. What if Only one person is speaking. Many views on that. According to me, there will be people who want to just listen, sit back, and enjoy the conversation. Or if the person is speaking for a long time, you might get bored. It becomes monotonous. Yes, exactly. You get bored. And sometimes it also leads to irritation, right? Very good. So we always like a participated discussion when we are in a group. So all of us are on the same page. And before that, we also want somebody who can spark the discussion. Right? Agreed? Okay. With this in mind, what if one person is quiet throughout the conversation? Feels he or she is not interested. Excellent. Or the person might be enjoying the conversation but not able to pitch in. We don't know what is happening in one's mind, or the person is getting irritated. So there are many things, and it is very difficult to assess what a quiet person is thinking. So what if we make that, yeah, he might be a good listener also, as Meenakshi is telling, he might be a good listener also, but we don't know if he is always listening and not appreciating, or he is listening and appreciating, or he is not even listening nor appreciating. So the quiet person needs to be pushed to talk. Okay, so how do we do it? Now, why did we talk about this scenario now in today's session? So that will be your next question in your mind, isn't it? Why are we talking about a road trip and things like that in this situation? Yes or no? Yes. Now, I want you all, because we all are teachers, and I want all of you to relate this situation to our classroom. We all are on a journey in education, and we all are traveling together. Here we refers to you as teachers and children as a whole group of people participating, and our car is our classroom. So now if we relate our classroom to this situation, how would you like your class to be? Just like the round trip. Yes, Lawrence sir, very good. You said it should be participative session, less talky, interactive. Very good. Okay, many of you say it should be an interactive session. What is this interactive? What do you mean by this interactive discussion? Full of discussion, interactive, interaction, all these are coming. What does this interaction mean in our classrooms? Students should ask their doubts. That means a student is talking to teacher, right? Active participation of students. I take your answer like that, Smita ma'am. Active participation of students. Okay. All students' participation should be encouraged. That leads to an interactive session. Excellent. Students can try to speak. Very good. Okay, Gagan now is telling students can try to speak. He said less talking from teacher and more talking from students. That's what Gagan sir actually meant. Friendly conversation. Students can try to speak. Excellent. Now, how do we do? Let us see what our classroom interaction actually means. And this is given by Ned A. Flanders. Defines interaction as teaching as an interactive process. Interaction means participation of teacher and students in the process of teaching. That's what the definition says. And I have read out the definition as quoted by Flanders. So the interaction here means exchange of thoughts between teacher and student and teacher, and student and student. Very good. Now we know what interaction actually means. Now what is that we have to incorporate, that there is lot of interaction in our classroom? Or if I were to ask you a question, how was your class today? All of you have taken few classes today morning and you have come here. So how was your classroom today? If I were to ask, what would you say with respect to interaction? How was your class today with respect to interaction? Have you, if you have introspected your class or from previous experiences, how was your classes with respect to interaction? What would you say? I have one saying that his class is his class was very interactive. Or if one of you say my class was not at all interactive, or it was moderately interactive. With these thoughts or with these answers from any of the teachers, what is moderate, what is less? How can we quantify it? So Meenakshi ma'am is telling her class was a very interactive because student asked doubts. Very good. So you say it was an interactive class. How much, what is the quantity of interaction was there in your class, Meenakshi ma'am? Based on the number of participants from the students. Yeah, that is true. But how can we quantify? Suppose I will say I want to measure the length of this pen. What will I do? I will take this pen, I will keep it straight, I will take a measuring scale, keep it along the side of the pen, zero at one end, and I will measure what is the unit on the scale. It can be centimeter, millimeter, or meter, depending on the what type of scale I'm using. Then I will be able to tell what is the length of this pen. So I know the length of this pen is probably 5 centimeters. Like that, how can you quantify your interaction with or quantify your interaction in your classrooms? Is there a way? Have you used any methods to find out what is the level of interaction in our classroom? Yeah, by sparing some time. Okay. When you spare some time, you are reflecting on your classroom. That's what you mean, Raman. Okay. But how can we, is there a way or like how to measure the length of this pen? We used a measuring scale. Similarly, have you used any tool like measuring scale to measure the interaction in your classroom? Anytime, any one of you? Smita ma'am says no such. Okay. Parmit Kaur ma'am says evaluation method. Yeah. But have you used any tool in evaluation method? Okay. Shaju sir says may not be viable. However, recording, yeah, that is very true. You record and you make or you draw some data out of it. But how do you draw? What is the process you go through? Okay. I have answer for all your questions. What is running in your mind? Now you said you want, I mean, all your responses show that you are interested to know what is the level of interaction in your classroom, but you are not very clear as to what is a standardized method or tool which I can use. Yes, quizzes is one such. Paramjit Kaur ma'am says quizzes is one such. It acts as a formative assessment and also it will be helpful for reflective teaching practices. I agree, ma'am. But how can we quantify with the number of students in our classroom? So I have answered to all your questions, which is now at present running in your mind. The answer is there is an interaction analysis and a tool which is given by Flanders. His name is Flander. The process, like how we kept the scale 0 at one end, measuring at the other end, there is a process in which we can measure our interaction. That is, the interaction can be measured in two stages. Stage 1 is encoding, stage 2 is decoding. In encoding, what do we do? As Sir said he can record the class and make a sheet of learners name list. Very good. That is the beginning. And what do we record in the sheet of learners name list? What is the parameters that we have to measure? And is there a framework within which we can work? And yes, there is an answer, yes, and it is given by Flanders Interaction Analysis Tool, and that will have the process of encoding and decoding. This encoding in the stage 1 where we encode, here we have to record the data in a meaningful way. That is recording the behavior in the classroom. It's the behavior means the dynamics of classroom is recorded. Decoding, now we have collected that data. That data needs to be, whatever data we have it in a very raw format. We have to arrange the data in a useful way so that the data can be analyzed and interpreted. Now, how do we do it? What is the framework within which we can work? And that techniques for interaction analysis, we have many. To name, I have four of them, which you can see on your screen. The first one is Flanders Interaction Analysis Category System. The second one is Reciprocal Category System. Third, Equivalent Talk Categories. Fourth, Verbal Interaction Category System. So like this, we have some tools which are ready, like our measuring scale, which we can use in our classrooms to measure the level of interaction. So you are very not so much moderate. Now we can quantify what is that very. For you, very maybe this much. For me, very maybe this much. For Aparna, very maybe this much. For Lawrence, very maybe this much. But we want to have a standardized very where we can quantify and say, okay, my interaction level is so much, with which I can reflect and say, how can I improve? What is that I should do? What is that I should not do? Or am I doing right or wrong? So if I'm happy, if it is sufficient, then I'll go ahead with the techniques which I'm continuing to do, have an interactive classroom. Sorry. So we have 4 such listed here, among which Flanders Interaction Analysis Category System is one tool which is widely used because of its ruggedness. We can interpret lot of data. The data which is collected can be interpreted, and which will help us to reflect and implement in our classrooms for an improved interactive classroom. And this was developed by Ned A. Flanders, as you can see on the screen. What is happening in classroom when a teacher teaches? That is what Flanders will help us to analyze using his tool. And he and others developed this system at the University of Minnesota. And what does Flanders say? What does Flanders Interaction Analysis Category System help us to value or quantify our interaction in classroom? Now let us see what Flanders says. So it's about the same thing. Now, according to Flanders, he categorized the interaction in classroom in 3 major areas. Area 1 is teacher talk, area 2 is pupil talk, area 3 is no one talks. In teacher talk, he has 2 subdivisions, which says indirect influence, the other one is direct influence, as you can see on the screen. I want all of you to concentrate now on the final categories categorized by Flanders. In indirect influence, there are 4 categories: accepts feelings, praise or encouragement, accepts or uses ideas of pupil, 4 ask questions. So these are Category 1, 2, 3, and 4 under indirect influence. And under direct influence, we have three categories. One is lecturing, 6 is giving direction, 7 is criticizing or justifying authority. Now, if we get into each of these, get into details of each of these categories, what do we understand by accept feelings? Would you like to say? What do we understand by accept feelings? Any one of you? It is teacher talk. It comes under the area of teacher talk, and the category is teacher accepts feelings. So what do we understand by this? What does this category mean? Any guesses? Okay, if you were to ask me, yeah, yes, Lawrence sir, if learners are not in a position to listen and accepting that, yeah, that is, yes, that is true. That is, you are accepting their emotional feelings. Other than emotional feelings, and we have to, as teachers, we have to have a big heart to do this. And we have to plan out some strategies which will help learners to listen. What do you think will put us in such a situation where children are no more interested in listening to us? Very good. Give them freedom to express their feelings. Very good. So, this accepting feelings will indirectly help them to express what they want to express. Excellent. So, as you all are telling, accept feelings are various things. It can be an emotional accept, accepting their response, or if the child wants to initiate something in the classroom, accepting and using that to go ahead in the class or classroom transaction. So, accepting feelings has wide variety of acceptance from teacher towards students' feelings. It can be accepting their good morning. It can be accepting that they're not well today. Give them an opportunity or help them to cope up with what they have missed. It can be accepting their responses. It can be accepting their initiation and so on. Teacher should be ready to listen to them, give them feeling of acceptance for their queries. Excellent. As Smita ma'am says, teacher should be a good listener when a student wants to tell something, not snub by saying, don't ask anything like that, it's stupid or whatever. So that's a very good thing. So when we snub, maybe they will get into the set of quiet people who are on a road trip. If we can relate. So because of their previous experiences of getting snubbed can make a student quiet. So that could be one reason. So accepting feelings plays a very major role, and it is an indirect influence on student by the teacher to be more active. Accepting the feelings related to topic, what do the children want? Very good. Yeah, that is accepting their responses. That's what Navdeep Kaur is wants to tell us. Now, praise or encouragement. That is another way of indirect influence. What do you mean by praise or encouragement? How much should we praise? How much should we praise? For what should we praise? And for what, how much should we praise? Do you think that plays an important role? Yes, that's what Lawrence agrees. He says it plays a very important role. For a lower order response, if we give a higher order praise, that also may not be encouraging student to participate next time. For a higher order response, if we give a lower order praise or encouragement, that also makes no sense. So correct responses should be appreciated appropriately. Very good. Whatever, whether it's a small, as ma'am is telling, small answers, yes, whatever is The order of answers, it can be a lower order or higher order. It should be appropriately praised or encouraged, or we call it as reinforced. And for a right response, we should never give a negative reinforcement. For a wrong response, never give a positive reinforcement. Both will play against us. So our praise and response will make them confident. Gagan sir is saying, I agree with you. We have to increase confidence in our children. Only then they can be good learners and they can be more interactive. So this, now you are now getting into the mode of indirect influence, where we can indirectly influence an interactive classroom. So small motivations should be, yes, what Smita ma'am is trying to tell is motivating children will help them to increase their participation in learning. Yeah, so this, now we all know how accept feelings, praise or encouragement makes so much sense for our classroom to be interactive. Going to the next one, accepts or uses idea of pupils. What do we mean by this? Many times what we do is we ask a question, we don't even wait for students' response. We just go ahead. We tell the answer or go ahead. Or we forget what we have asked and we do something else. Or we may switch over to another topic. With that, what happens is the child might get discouraged. With that, the child may not participate next time. When you ask a question, the child may not be interested. The child will think anyway, even if I tell, if I don't tell, ma'am is not going to listen, or she will say the answer and she will go ahead. So such type of um, behavior or dynamics can be avoided by accepting students' response when we have asked them to express. Very good. Asking them appropriate questions and relevant questions where and when required. Very good. And the fourth one is asking questions. And this will match with what Lawrence sir is trying to tell. Asking questions or probing is a very important and very effective technique for any classroom to be interactive. I believe in this philosophy of probing into children's ideas so that the classroom is more interactive and very dynamic. So we should, what type of questions we ask, when and how we ask, what is the logical sequencing of our questions matters a lot. So if we logically sequence our questions appropriately and relevantly, the dynamics of the classroom will be very vibrant and there will be more participation by students, and which will also help us achieve our objective, not only the learning objective of the day, but also another objective of initiating children's talk or making them more confident, making them have develop a rapport with us or with teachers, which will help them to express whatever views or sorrows or whatever, so that they have developed a confide with teachers, so that a good relationship or socio-emotional environment is created in the classroom. With that, confidence itself, or that in that positive socio-emotional environment in the classroom will help student shape up very well in the future or then and there itself. So all these four categories now we have discussed in depth. Now coming to the direct influence, these are indirect influences which helps student develop many other things, because when a teacher does this, we get so many products out of it. Now talking about what is direct influence, here we say lecturing. Flanders has identified lecturing as one method. What do you say about this? I would say lecturing is important, but what we have to keep in mind is when and how much of it is required. Suppose we are probing, we are taking the class forward, and when and where children does not know something, when something is new, when you have to tell them, then you can use method of lecturing for a few minutes, depending on their age. If it is for class 6, 7, 8, you can tell them for 3 to 4 minutes. More than that, the child may not listen. When they go to 8th, 9th, and 10th, you can increase the skill of explanation for another 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes. And with that, the whatever the idea has to be conveyed is conveyed, and what child does not know is conveyed. Therefore, lecturing is important as against lecturing for 40 minutes continuous for school children. Do you think it will work? Will it make the classroom interactive? Yeah, definitely no. Lawrence sir has put 3 zeros, 3 O's. No. So lecturing has to be quantified and very consciously done when and where required for a very short duration of time. Giving directions is equally important in our classroom dynamics. Criticizing or justifying authority. Teacher might criticize or justify authority. So this is one type of teacher talk, which does not have a positive impact. It can be done, but it can be done very subtly. It need not be a direct criticism or to show authority so that the child is snubbed, which will not help child participate in future. So now we have understood 7 categories under teacher talk as specified by Flanders. You want any clarification on this, or shall we move? Okay. Now going to pupil talk. We have another area with which the classroom interaction is divided, as I told you in the beginning. The pupil talk. Here, the pupil talk is categorized in 2 categories. Category 8 is response. Category 9 is initiation. In response, normally it is answer to a question, or it can be adding value or adding their thoughts, their views. So there are many things which come under response. And initiation can be, the spark can be from student side. Today we start as a teacher. When I enter my classroom, suddenly a pupil stands up and say, today I want to learn about this, ma'am, or I have got something from my home. Yesterday we did a topic on this. I thought this is related to that. Can we talk about this? So some initiation from student side, provided our indirect influence is strong for a student to initiate that. So all this come under pupils talk. And it can also be a talk from student side when the child has not understood what was discussed in the classroom. The child may say, ma'am, I have a doubt, or I'm not able to understand. I'm not able to relate what you're saying. So these are initiation, all these come under category of initiation from pupil. And the last area is no one talks. Does it happen in our classrooms? Does it? No one talks. Yes, it will. It will happen in our classroom. May not be all 45 minutes, but few minutes here and there it will happen. And now we have to understand what this silence or confusion really means when no one talks. When no one talks, there are many things which happen. One can be, what kind of silence is this? By analyzing the type of silence or confusion, we'll know why no one is talking. One, it can be a good confusion which the teacher has created, or a good confusion which a pupil has initiated. which might have created a silence for 2 or 3 minutes or 5 minutes in the classroom, or it can be a state of confusion for a teacher because of which the teacher stops talking for few minutes, or state of confusion for children where students stop participating. As I told you, it may not be because of good confusion, it can be because of they have not understood or related anything. So they stop participating and there is complete confusion. And here we should be very careful in analyzing, is it a good confusion or a bad confusion. As teachers, we should always initiate a good confusion, especially at the beginning of the class, where we are raising an ICA question. As you all know, all of you would have done your B.Ed, or the ICA question means increasing critical awareness question at the beginning of the class, where we create that confusion and which will create that silence. And it is a very good confusion which motivates children to learn or participate or be with the class for next 40 or 45 minutes. So these are the 10 categories as defined by Flanders. Now you should ask me, what do we do after knowing this, right? So that will be your next question on mind. So what do we do by knowing what are the categories listed by Flanders? Now, keeping these categories in mind, we can analyze our classroom interaction or quantify our classroom interaction. How do we do it? As Lawrence sir already mentioned, it is difficult for a teacher who is in classroom, who is actively participating in classroom transaction. It's difficult to do any observation and collect data. So his suggestion was to record the classroom so that we can collect some data. Right, sir? That's what you meant at the beginning when we were discussing something. And if that does not work, the best way what Flanders has suggested is have an observer who can do the encoding, that is collect data when your classroom or your classroom transaction is going. That is record of student activities. That's what Lawrence says, very good. So how do we record, or should we record only student activity or the talk? Here we are talking about interaction. Now we know what categories listed, what were the categories listed by Flanders. We will use that to record our data. There is a process, that is encoding and decoding, a defined process given by Flanders, which we can use as a tool to analyze our classroom interaction. Therefore, for that, we need an observer. The observer should know all the categories thoroughly. He should know what are the 10 categories and when, and should be able to observe and record those or identify those categories in a classroom transaction. So we should have an observer who knows what are the categories. The observer should be able to identify or categorize an interaction in classroom into any of these 10 categories. So the observer should be well versed with the categories and identification of categories during a classroom session. The observer should sit in a position where he can see and hear all the participants, that is including teacher and students. At the end of every 3 seconds, see, this is the process given by FAIS, that is the tool developed by Flanders to analyze the classroom interaction. We should have an observer. The observer should record at the end of every 3 seconds what is the type of interaction that is taking place. Suppose the teacher is asking questions. Asking questions come under which category? As we saw earlier. Asking questions come under category 4. Yes, it is indirect influence and comes under category 4. The observer will record 4. in a sheet of paper. If there is silence, then the observer will record which category. I will show you the last. Excellent. Last is the 10th category. So he will write 10. Very good. I will just show you that slide again. So if you can go through. Okay. Like this, the observer at the end of every third second makes a note of the category which is taking place in the classroom. In this process, only the serial number of the category is recorded. That is, it is written like 4, as you said, the 4th category asking questions, comma. If there is silence, 10, that is a 10th category. And if pupil responds, then it comes under 8th category. So the data, how it will look on an observer's page will be 4, 10, 8. Like that, at the end of every third second, the observer will make a note of the serial number of that category or the observed category in the classroom. The data sheet will look like row of numbers or a series of numbers which the observer will note down. When the observation is over, now after the class is done, say a 40 minutes class is done or a 45 minutes class is done, the observer will no longer sit in the same classroom. The observer will go to another room where peacefully the observer can prepare or organize that data and help the teacher to analyze that data. So this what happens in phase 1. That is the first phase where the observer will observe and encode the data in the classroom. The observer should, as I told you, should remember the serial number of these categories. Once the observation is done, I said the analysis happens in 2 phases. First is encoding. Encoding is now over. Our observer has recorded observations. Now, how do we arrange this data and analyze? So, how do we do the decoding part of this, whatever data we have collected? So, the decoding process looks something like this. If you see the first line, the encoded observations may be of the form 6, 10, 7, 5, 1, 4, 8, 4. This is a set of data which was collected after 24 seconds in a classroom. So we'll keep this small set of data for our understanding, for an easier understanding. So I've only taken 8 observations which was recorded after 24 seconds. That is, in 24, how many? 3 seconds we have. So 24 by 3 is 8 times the 3 seconds. So there should be 8 recordings. As you see, the observer has currently recorded 8 observations in 24 seconds. The number goes like this: 6, 10, 7, 5, 1, 4, and 8, 4. But there is a rule which says add leading 10 and ending 10 to whatever data the observer has collected. Whether it was there or not, there is a rule which says add 10 at the beginning for the set of data you have collected and 10 at the end of set of data I have collected. As you can see here, the last line, a 10 is underlined. Now, the first 2 numbers, 10, 6, is grouped as first pair. The second and third data is counted as second pair. 10, 6 is one pair, 6, 10 is one pair, 10, 7 is one pair, 7, 5 is one pair. So if you see here, this 8 plus 2 categories, whatever we have written, has ended in 9 pairs. So what do? We group the set of data in pairs, 10, 6, but we don't go to the third number, but we go to the second and third number. The second pair will start from second number. Then the third pair will start from third number. So how many pairs do we have? 10, 6, 6, 10, 10, 7, 7, 5, 5, 1, and so on, as you see on the screen. So this is how the observations are decoded. We make pairs and keep the pairs ready. Suppose as our regular class or the timetable says, we have 40 minutes for each period. So if an observer observes our class, so how many categories should the observer would have recorded in 40 minutes? Now, as the calculation says, if the observer should record one observation every 3 seconds, then in a class of 40 minutes, we should have 800 observations. So this is what the calculation part of it says. Now we'll go back to our example where we had 8 numbers listed. We have added 10, 10 at the beginning, and at the end we have also made pairs. Now with this, how does this help to analyze the interaction in our classroom? For that, we have to prepare a beautiful interaction matrix table. As you can see on the screen, we have to prepare this matrix table. How do we do it? We should have the table with 11 columns and 11 rows. In 11 columns, the first 10 and the first 10 is C1, C2 to C10 are columns, and the last one will be total. R1, R2, R10 are rows, and the last one will be total. Now from what we collected the data, as we already paired them with that example I am talking, we have the first pair 10, 6. Here 10 is the row, 6 is the column. Now we have to add a tally in 10th row and 6th column. If you see, in 10th row and 6th column, we have added a tally. Similarly, 6th row, 10th column. In 6th row and 10th column, we have added a tally. Like that, we mark tallies for all the pairs. Then we go column wise and find the total number of tallies in C1, total number of tallies in C2. Similarly, total number of tallies till C10. Same thing goes with rows also. We find total number of tallies in row 1, row 2 up to row 10. With this, the matrix is ready. Now we will do a grand total of all the tallies. That is, in rows, whatever is there, you add that. Here you have 9. In columns, whatever we have, add that, we have 9. So this is how the matrix looks. Now, how does this matrix help us to analyze the interaction? For that, there are some standard ratios given by Flanders, where we can find out what is the teacher talk ratio. That is, what is the percentage of teacher talk. That is given by this formula, which says C1 plus C2 plus C3 till C7 divided by n. In our example, n was 9 into 100. So that is the ratio of teacher talk. Indirect talk ratio, direct talk ratio, all this can be found out using these formulas. Now that we have found out what is the teacher talk ratio, what is the indirect talk ratio, what is the direct talk ratio, what does this indicate? Any guesses? Now we have some quantity in our hand. What does this indicate? How will it help us to know what? Very good, interaction level. Can you elaborate, sir? What the teacher talk ratio is more than the pupil talk? Yes, which is given more priority, I agree. But what if the teacher talk ratio is more than the pupil talk ratio? That means the teacher is dominating the class. So it's a teacher-centered classroom. What if the direct talk ratio is more than the indirect talk ratio? What if the direct talk ratio is more than the indirect talk ratio? Okay, we can assess the understanding levels. Very good. Does it indicate anything more? That means teacher talk is more than the pupil talk, and direct talk in that category. Normally we have lecturing, giving directions and criticizing. If that occupies most time of our classroom interaction, that means again it says it's a teacher dominant classroom. But as we all agreed at the beginning of the session that we want a interactive classroom where we want a pupil centered classroom. For that, which of these ratios should be more, or which of these ratios should be less? If we want a pupil centered classroom, which of these should be more and which of these should be less? Yes. Indirect should be. Sir, you have said indirect. Should it be more or less for a pupil centered classroom? Aparna is saying it should be more. Yeah, very good. So indirect talk ratio should be more than the direct talk ratio. Excellent, sir. Yeah, very good. Excellent. So we want, see, the indirect talk actually helps children modify into a different personality, which makes them more confident, which makes them more participative. So we have a long-term impact on children's personality. Indirect should be more. I agree with you, ma'am. Okay. Now, we also have pupil talk ratio and silence or confusion. And we can also take a ratio between indirect talk and direct talk. As you all said, now you all know which should be more and which should be less. Is this all we can interpret from this matrix, or can we interpret something more? As Flanders has given few equations, is that all we can interpret? I mean, we can interpret that it is very good, it is helping us know, or we can interpret more. Lawrence is saying we can interpret more. What can be that? Can you elaborate with an example, sir? If you can talk, that is also fine. Yeah, we can interpret more. Yeah, that is your guess. I agree. I totally agree. To elaborate on what Lawrence sir is saying, which I also agree, we can interpret lot more in this matrix than the equations which is listed here. Much more can be interpreted. Suppose I have a tally which says 3 comma, if I have a tally which says 4 comma 7, what am I doing here? 4 comma 7. So in this matrix we'll have 4 and 7. That means this gives a lot of insight in us, which says you're asking question and you're also criticizing. So we are doing two contradicting things at the same time. Yeah, Lawrence says it shows the teacher attitude. Very good. So it is not so good attitude. So we have to change. So this gives lot more information than the equations given. Now I accept feelings and there is silence. If there is one recording which says 1 comma 10, so what does that interpret? Yeah, that can also interpret there is no learning happening. Maybe you are accepting feeling which is not related to the lesson. You are going outside the topic, or you are talking something else which is not required for today's lesson, which will create lack of interest in students, because teacher is only interested in one student and that feeling is not related to the classroom, and it will develop lack of interest in all other students, because of which there can be silence. Excellent, a very good response. So similarly with this set of data we can interpret lot more things. And how will this interpretation help us? How will this interpretation help us? So as you said at the beginning of the session that you were interested to know what is the level of interaction in your classroom, and it will help us to self-introspect. That's what Lawrence sir is saying. Exactly, sir. It will help us to self-introspect, reflect, and we can fine-tune our transaction, which can change the classroom dynamics to a more healthier learning environment. So this analysis will actually help us to reflect and take measures accordingly. So with this, I'm sure all of you now have got an idea as to how we can measure our classroom interaction and quantify it, and also modify our classroom interaction based on this analysis. Is that correct? Yes, yes. Correct. Yes, Smita ma'am. So it helps us in reflective teaching practices. I hope you all like this tool. As many of you said, you have not used this earlier. So will it be a good help for you in your career? Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. So this has lot of advantages. Now let us see what are the advantages and limitations of this tool. The advantages are it is an effective tool to measure the socio-emotional climate in classroom, and it is very reliable. And I would like also quote, according to research, the observers have used this tool worldwide, and they have found the researchers anticipate an average of 68% teacher talk, 20% pupil talk, and 12% confusion. So that is what the observers have said worldwide. But Flanders contents saying there is 80% teacher talk, 10% or 12% pupil talk, and 8% silence. But with this tool, this is the statistics we have. But what we have to build as teachers is reduce the percentage of teacher talk, increase the percentage of pupil talk, and increase the good percentage of silence or confusion. And we can all work towards it. And it does not require many times doing this drill. Maybe in your career, you can do it twice, thrice, or even 5 times, I would say. But at the end of third or fourth time, you would have fitted so well that this becomes very natural to you, and your lessons modify in such a way that it's a very interactive classroom, and you don't require to do an analysis, a very rigorous analysis like this. So even if you do it 2 3 times, by the end of third or fourth time, naturally your classrooms would have become interactive by taking care of all the gaps which you analyze from the data you have got. So it helps us as a feedback and for self-assessment. And this is very good exercise or drill work for interim teachers, that is the trainee teachers, during their demo lessons, during their training lessons, during micro teaching lessons. And in micro teaching, as you all know, each teaching skill has n number of components. Unless and until it is observed and recorded, as the way Flanders says, it will be very difficult for any new teacher to assess or improve. So this becomes a very useful tool during the skill learning program. We do have skill learning program. We plan a month for skill learning program in teacher education, and this tool helps interim teachers a lot to improve their teaching skills. And as you all know, everything will have some limitations. This also has the limitations. As you can see, it is listed on the screen. And keeping in mind all the good things, the advantages, I hope many of you or all of you will use this tool and make your classrooms more interactive. Thank you. Thank you all for participating. Any feedback on the sessions, feel free to share.
For such amazing and interactive session. Do we have any questions? I can see that people are responding. Uh, we have Smita Pace who asked about how to bring them to the practice.
That's a good question, ma'am. It can be, as I said, you have to identify an observer. Maybe I can create a template and give it to you, how the observations can be recorded. As it is only, or I will share a template with the categories and how it has to be measured. You can use that. You have to prepare an observer who is a very good observer and has no subjectivity during observation. With that, it's very easy to do. It's all that the observer has to do is sit in one of your sessions, take the recording, then analysis follows.
Yes, we have Paramjeet Kaur, we have a feedback form. We'll share it through your mail. Ma'am, thank you for making this session so engaging, and a big thank you to everyone who have joined us over here. And we look forward to see you again on 23rd July for our next session. And registration links and further details will be shared with you shortly through email ID. So thank you once again and have a great evening.